I was looking at my search history the other day and it is humiliating. It's just a list of things I'm trying to fix myself. How to fix a leaky faucet, how to get coffee stains out of a rug, DIY drywall repair. We live in this golden age where we think, well, hey, give me 5 minutes on YouTube and I'm basically a professional.
Oh, absolutely. The YouTube University degree, we all have one. It feels empowering until you're actually knee deep in the project, holding a wrench, and realizing you have no idea what that noise is.
Exactly. But here's where I want to take this today. We do this with our houses, we do it with our cars, but I feel like we've started doing this with our souls. We've entered the era of DIY spirituality.
That is a massive shift, isn't it? It's the idea that church or faith is just me, my Bible app, a playlist, and maybe a clip of a preacher I like on Instagram.
Right? It's efficient, it's customizable. But the question we need to ask today, and it's kind of a wild one, is what if God actually designed it that way? Like, would we be better off? Or are we just broken down on the side of the road, pretending we know how to fix the engine?
I love that image because if we stick with the car metaphor for a second, think about the difference between a YouTube mechanic and a real one. You watch the video, you buy the tools, you pop the hood, you might change the wiper blades or swap a battery. You feel great, you're independent.
Look at me, I'm a mechanic.
Exactly, I love using cars as metaphors. But take that same car to a master mechanic when the transmission starts slipping. A real mechanic can open the hood and immediately tell, okay, who touched this? Why is that hose duct taped? Why is this bolt loose? They know instantly that an amateur has been in there.
That's uncomfortable.
It is. Because when we try to DIY complex things without training, we usually just make it more expensive to fix later. And the soul, the human spirit, that is infinitely more complex than a transmission. Yet we have people saying, I don't need a pastor, I don't need a community, I have a podcast.
It's the spiritual task rabbit approach. Just grab what you need when you need it. But let's play out that thought experiment I mentioned. Let's imagine God did choose the DIY model. Let's say he wrote the Bible, dropped it off, and said, okay, go to your separate corners, figure it out, don't talk to each other. What does that world look like?
It's a terrifying world, honestly. If God's design was pure isolation, first off, you have zero shared wisdom. Think about iron sharpening iron. In a DIY world, you're just iron rubbing against yourself. You never get sharper. You just get duller and more convinced you're right.
That's the danger, right? If I'm the only voice in the room, I'm always the smartest person in the room.
Precisely. You become the hero of your own story forever. There's no one to challenge your pride. No one to say, hey, you're being selfish here. In a community, you bump into people. It's friction, but friction is what polishes you. Without that, you have no stretching.
And no support. That's the part that scares me. If I fall into a pit in a DIY world, I'm just in a pit.
You're done. There's no one to pull you out, no one to bear the burden. It's a survival of the fittest spirituality. And if you look at the actual text, God's model is aggressively anti DIY. He calls us a body.
Right? The body metaphor.
You can't have a detached hand crawling around the floor trying to pick things up. It's useless. It's grotesque, actually. A hand needs an arm, which needs a shoulder, which connects to the head. We are designed for interdependence. Hebrews says, let us consider how to stir up one another, not neglecting to meet together. Community isn't a bonus feature you pay extra for. It's the operating system.
So if the operating system is connection, why are we so addicted to the isolation? Why is the DIY model trending?
Well, if we zoom out and look at this through a spiritual warfare lens, if you were the enemy, which setup do you prefer? Do you want a tight-knit group of believers who pray for each other, correct each other, and watch each other's blind spots? Or do you want a million individuals alone in their rooms interpreting reality by themselves?
You want them alone. It's the nature predation.
It's basic biology. A lion never charges the whole herd when they are standing shoulder to shoulder. It's suicide. The lion waits. He watches for the one that drifts off, the one that says, I don't need the group. I'm independent. I'm going to go graze over here by myself.
That's a heavy image. DIY spirituality feels like freedom, but you're saying it's actually exposure.
It's a setup because lies grow best in isolation. When you're alone, your own thoughts echo so loud they sound like the voice of God. You can convince yourself of anything. This sin isn't that bad. God is mad at me. I'm unlovable. There's no brother or sister to grab you and say, hey, that's a lie. Snap out of it.
And shame thrives there too. I think that's a big one. When we struggle alone, we think we are the only one.
Exactly. Silence breeds shame. In community, you confess something and realize 3 other people nod their heads and say, me too. Suddenly, the monster loses its teeth. But in the DIY model, you're just sitting in the dark with your monster.
I want to pivot to how this looks practically right now because COVID really accelerated this. We got work from home, which was great for avoiding traffic, but we also got worship from home.
The pajama church era.
Yeah, and look, streaming is a great tool, but be honest, when we attend church online, are we really attending or are we folding laundry and checking email while a sermon plays in the background?
That's not DIY church. That's drive-by church. You're slowing down just enough to look through the window, but you aren't parking the car. You aren't getting out. You consume the content, but you don't contribute to the mission.
It feeds into that phrase we hear constantly, I'm spiritual but not religious.
Oh, that is the mantra of the DIY age. And I get it. People have been hurt by institutions. We can't ignore that. But often spiritual but not religious translates to, I want the feeling of connection without the burden of accountability.
It's wanting the benefits of a family without having to do the dishes.
Or deal with the crazy uncle, or share your food. It's wanting to be a guest in God's house, not a son or daughter. A guest comes in, eats, enjoys the vibe, and leaves. A son or daughter has chores. They have responsibilities. They have to deal with the mess. But they also get the inheritance. DIY spirituality creates consumers, not heirs.
That hits hard. Consumers, not heirs. Because a consumer just picks what they like. I like this preacher's jokes, but I don't like this preacher's call to repentance. So I'll just switch the channel.
You curate your own theology, and eventually you end up with a God that looks suspiciously like you, a God that agrees with all your political views, all your lifestyle choices, and never challenges you to grow. That's not God. That's a mirror.
Wow. So if we're listening to this and realizing, okay, I've been building a mirror, not a window, what do we do? Because for some people, the idea of re-entering a church community is terrifying. Maybe they've been burned. Maybe they're just introverted and the DIY thing feels safe.
And I want to validate that. Church hurt is real. People are messy. The mechanic shop is full of grease. But the answer to bad community isn't no community. It's healthy community.
So how do you shift from DIY back to the shop?
You start small. You don't have to go from isolated to leading a small group overnight, but you have to be honest about where you are. Ask yourself, am I trying to fix a totaled life with Instagram quotes?
That's a brutal question.
It is, but if the answer is yes, you need to re-engage. Maybe that means physically showing up to a service instead of streaming. Maybe it means keeping the stream off while you watch so you actually focus. Maybe it means texting one person and saying, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you pray for me?
Just breaking the seal on that isolation.
Right? Say yes to one step beyond consuming, because God didn't design you to be a one-man shop. He didn't give you all the gifts. He gave you some gifts, and he gave your neighbor other gifts so that you would need each other.
It's humbling. It forces us to admit we aren't self-sufficient.
And that's where the power is. Independence is the world's goal. Dependence on God and his people is the kingdom's goal.
I keep thinking about that image of the car on the side of the road. We're standing there with a wrench we don't know how to use, smoke pouring out of the engine, stressing ourselves out. And meanwhile, there's a fully equipped garage right down the street with people waiting to help.
And the master mechanic is saying, bring it in. You weren't meant to carry this engine by yourself.
That's the invitation. Stop trying to be the hero of your own spiritual repair job.
Exactly. And let's be real. While you're standing there alone on the road saying, I'm good, I'm independent, the enemy is watching from the tall grass saying, perfect, stay right there, don't call for help.
Chilling, but hopeful because we don't have to stay there.
No, we don't. The doors of the church are open.
Well, this has been a serious checkup for me. I think a lot of us need to put down the DIY tools and get back into the family. If this conversation hit a nerve for you listening or maybe made you squirm a little, that's probably a good sign.
Is the check engine light coming on? Don't ignore it.
Don't ignore it. Share this with someone who's been stuck in the DIY loop. Let's stop acting like we can build a cathedral of faith with nothing but our own two hands and a Wi-Fi connection. We were made for more. Thanks for joining the huddle today.
See you next time.